everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thanks for joining me. I'll be your astrologer this week. We got a lot going on. Trying to fuse two videos together. Usually the last astro weather of the month, we talk all about the incoming month, but we have a full moon coming and a bunch of other things. So primarily a huge chunk of this video is going to be all about the full moon in Sagittarius. That will be taking place on June the 3rd. But we're going to do the astro weather for the week. We'll be talking about all of the transits from May 28th through June the 4th, 2023. Hopefully you guys are enjoying what's left of your weekend. If you're watching this, if you're a part of the Sunday crew, thank you guys so much for your support. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Click the button below, make sure you're subscribed. Give me a thumbs up and drop me a message. Drop me a little comment below this video and let me know how you're doing with some of the transits this week. Just a friendly reminder for some of you guys also, June horoscopes are live on the channel now. So if you want to take a look at the June horoscopes, I have them out for each and every one of the 12 signs. So let's just jump right into it because we're going to have to kind of roll through some of the transits for the week ahead. I'm not going to say that there aren't things happening. There are things happening, but you have to really look for some of these aspects. Probably the two big things taking place this week is going to be the full moon in Sagittarius and also the Jupiter North Node conjunction taking place on the 1st. But we're going to start with today, Sunday, the 28th of May. And when you guys are waking up in the morning, we have got this moon in Virgo. So it's still hanging out in Virgo. We're getting all kinds of supporting, productive, physically building trines. And as most of you guys know, also Mercury is still in shadow. Okay, so we're going to still be seeing some shadowy things going on this week. You may have noticed it yesterday. You may be noticing it today because as that moon is in Virgo, we're taking a look at what's going on with Mercury. And Mercury is making his way, getting closer and closer to Uranus, where he will conjunct later in the week. But when the moon's in trine to Mercury, we're able to communicate, share, express ideas. We're working our way out of this opposition to Saturn, which was kind of taking place overnight. And we've still got a little bit of like a funky mutable square. So if you guys have been noticing, and you will notice during the full moon, anybody who's got planets in like the earlier degrees of the mutable signs, the first 12, 13 degrees, you're going to be feeling some of the squares this week. Also still coming off of that Sun square Saturn. So that was happening yesterday into today. You know, the Sun square Saturn, some of us are feeling a little disgruntled. We're feeling the delays, the slowdown of things. And definitely there can be some challenges revolving around feeling confident. So we might kind of feel a little unsure today, but really communication is king. As long as you're able to talk about things and work your way through it, we can find solutions. And I'm really also digging that moon in a trine to Uranus because it's about emotional shifts, doing things differently, moving the house around, furniture around. I will be using this, lunar transit to be focusing on dust busting and organizing and cleaning and getting things together because I like the action that it's making to all these planets in the sign of Taurus. And I also like the sextiles that it's picking up to Venus in Cancer. So this can be a wonderful day to like get things done. And that's the biggest transits that are going to be taking place on the 28th. So if we take you into Monday, the 29th, we're going to be seeing the moon in Libra. So the moon will make that ingress right around late morning, kind of early afternoon, depending on where you are. That ingress is going to be taking place and the moon immediately starts making a trine to Pluto. So really transformative, deep, emotional. It can be passionate for some people. And we're going to see the pickup on Monday of a grand air trine. So we're going to see the moon, Pluto, and the sun kind of harmonizing. You guys saw last week how the sun's ingress into Gemini immediately was met with a trine to Pluto. So there was something that was changing and transforming. So we get a little bit of that energy as well on Monday. So Monday is a great partnering, working with other people, trying to kind of get the point across type of day. Moon in Libra wants us to relate to other people, focus on relationships, and it's going to be touching on what's going on with Venus. And so We have a little sweet spot before about a day or so later, Libra gets into the later degrees with the moon, that we're going to see the Venus-Neptune trine beginning. Now that won't be taking place until later in the week, but still, it can feel a little bit more dreamy, romantic, you know, sensitive. And Venus in Cancer is all about domestic pleasures and security. And that's really the only real transit. You'll see as the moon continues to keep going through Libra on Monday, it's going to start to form the trine actually really early the next day. But you'll be picking it up pretty much all day. We might even benefit from it a little bit on the 30th. So that actual trine is going to come in really early morning on the 30th. But it's within range, so you guys will be able to use it the day before and also the day of. And so the challenge that's going to be happening on Tuesday is that we're going to begin to start seeing the moon come into an opposition with Chiron. Okay, so moon in Libra opposing Chiron in Aries, so reflecting on self wounds, working on our own issues, healing our own our own insecurities, right? So when the moon is in hard aspect to Chiron, there is a way where we can get support from other people. So counselors, therapists, you know, partners, people who give us a little bit of feedback. You will begin to start feeling the moon square Venus. So there can be some like relational energies that are going on. And then later in the day, as the moon is moving into the later degrees of Libra, it will come into a square with Venus. So not really something we want to see, right? Especially while the moon is moving through a Venusian sign. So thankfully that's going to be happening for the most part overnight and into the early morning of the 31st. And I've got it here on my notes, just so you guys are aware. The 31st is going to be a more challenging day. There's a number of things that are going on this day that does make me feel like this is where we start to kind of see breakdown. So pull out your red marker. Note Wednesday, hump day is very much going to feel like a hump day. And when we're waking up in the morning, we're starting to feel the moon-Venus square. So there can be a sense of feeling a little bit at odds with what we need on a personal level and what we need within relationships. And so squares represent some kind of challenge. There can be a sense of feeling pulled in two different directions. At the very same time, though, we are also seeing the sun pull out of that square with Saturn, and we're also seeing the sun still kind of in harmony with Mars. So, you know, I do feel like it is possible to communicate. I mean, I think the entire moon in Libra transit, this, you know, 2.5 day period is just getting the information out there, sharing and talking to other people about what we're willing to change. But we start to kind of feel things kind of get uncomfortable, and you'll notice this on Wednesday the 31st, especially when the moon is ingressing into Scorpio. So that's going to be taking place in the PM hours, depending on where you are, closer to about 5:30 Pacific. It's going to be about 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. I know we've got people all over the world, but this moon in Scorpio ingress is going to be very loud. So whatever you're doing Wednesday night, just be mindful of your surroundings. Might be a better time to just like hang at home, have dinner, spend time keeping a low profile, because we've got a grand fixed cross that's going to set up, that's going to be triggered by the moon. So we really want to be paying attention to this particular transit. Now, yes, in the background, Venus is still pulling into this trine with Neptune, but when the moon comes into conjunction with its own south node, there is like an emotional clearing. So there can be moods, there can be moodiness. And when the moon is going through a sign that's ruled by Mars and Pluto, more intensity, more conflict, there can be more passion, but there's definitely like a sense of there being a need to release and let go. We've only got a little bit more than a month that we're going to be seeing the South Node in Scorpio before it's going to ingress into Libra. So those of you guys who are Scorpio, Sun, Moon, or Rising, or if you have any personal planets in the early degrees of the fixed signs, you're definitely going to be much more sensitive to this transit. So you may look around on Wednesday night and go, what is going on? So as that moon comes into conjunction with the South Node, it is first going to come into a square with Pluto. So moon square Pluto brings up intense emotional turmoil. Watching the moon go through, Scorpio, which can be about fear, it can be about pain. And the square to Pluto is like where we're feeling this on a collective level and things that are going on within society. Moon South Node can indicate that people are getting concerned or worried about their resources. Now, at the very same time, the moon is also going to come into an opposition with Jupiter in Taurus, which is all about physical things, physical growth, life. So this is going to be an interesting aspect to see like the moon right on the South Node and to see Jupiter right on the North Node, where we're feeling in a way that we're kind of trapped in between timelines. This might be a moment in time where, you know, things can go one of two ways. And you might find yourself at a fork in the road, life-wise. If you go one way and make a decision, your life would be very different if you go in a different way. At the same time, we're picking this up because Mars is still kind of in a square with the nodes. So I reminded you guys in my videos in this last week that actions have consequences. We need to slow down, really think about things before we make decisions. So when the moon is kind of stuck in between several rocks and several hard places, Jupiter magnifies, Mars puts the pressure, Pluto brings this like fear and transformative aspect. I'm not guessing, I'm pretty damn sure that Wednesday night's going to be very intense for a lot of people, leading into the very next day when we get into the first on Thursday. We're still going to see some things kind of rocking and rolling as the moon goes deeper into Scorpio, and it's going to start to make oppositions to planets in Taurus. Now, something that's positive is that the moon, as it's going through Scorpio, is going to start trining Saturn. So there is a sense of reflecting, letting go. Saturn in Pisces is teaching us things that may appear safe or secure, may not actually be safe or secure. And there's a need to really tap into spiritually why we need to have better boundaries. So watch for the moods, watch for the intensity, especially if you have planets in the early degrees of the fixed signs taking place on Wednesday the 31st in the evening. So if you guys watch this, we have the opposition to Jupiter taking place the very early hours of June the 1st. Then we see the very early morning hours, the moon is going to come into a square with Mars, and that's going to be, around 4:30 a.m. Pacific, around 7:30 a.m. on the East Coast. I'm anticipating we're going to wake up on June the 1st, and there's going to be probably some pretty significant financial news brewing or news involving conflict or war. These are financial signs, so it can very much be kind of entangled with the same topics. And then obviously, it's kind of funny. It's like the first, it's like rent is due, and a lot of people are going to be like, well, how am I paying for this? Because we're seeing some of these squares taking place, and with the moon in the sign of Scorpio, like living situation and cost of living is kind of really reaching like this breaking point where I think a lot of people are going to be very concerned about going into the next month, the beginning of the month financially. But the last aspect that moon is going to make is the square to Mars. So we're kind of waking up feeling a little emotionally agitated, and we might be feeling a little discouraged. We may not be totally thrilled about some of the obstacles and the conflict that we're actually experiencing. So take your time on Thursday morning. Be mindful that people are going to be moody with some of these moon-Pluto squares and these moon-Mars squares of just feeling like we need to react. And people might react very quickly to things. Mars is the traditional ruler of Scorpio, so the fact that Mars is kind of landlocked, still in a square to Jupiter in the nodes, and still feeling the heat of that opposition to Pluto, likely we're going to once again feel like we're kind of like in this like landlocked kind of gridlock situation where you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. I know it's not easy to hear some of this stuff, but you guys know I'm going to keep it real with you. Like, I'm not like a fluff astrologer. To be honest with you, it's quick moving, right? The reason why we call it moods, it's because the moon is changing signs and making aspects. So likely when the moon makes several aspects like this, we're going to experience a mood change. Now it'll move pretty quickly. The moon is going to keep moving through Scorpio. But there is something very positive that is happening on the first of the month. I did discuss this in my horoscope, so if you guys want to hear where it's taking place for you, for your chart based off of your rising sign or your sun sign, check out my horoscopes. This happens roughly every 6 or 7 years, depending on the Jupiter cycles. But we are having Jupiter conjunct the North Node. Extremely fortuitous, very positive. The North Node is almost like a megaphone for, the direction where we're going for spiritual growth, for life growth collectively. So this is for everyone. You do not have to be a Taurus to benefit from this. However, if you have any personal planets in Taurus around, like let's say between 2 and 4 degrees, or sun, moon, and rising, it's going to be extra sweet and really prominent for you. Yes, Jupiter magnifies things. So if there is something heavy going on, it can make that feel heavier. But generally overall, because Jupiter is the great benefic, it wants to bring us something positive. And something we're going to be experiencing both from this conjunction and also the sextiles to Saturn is that we're realizing that in order to achieve something great, in order to receive some sense of growth or abundance or support, there is a need to sacrifice, to commit, to be serious, to be optimistic, right? Jupiter is traditionally associated with Pisces. So we've got something cool going on here where Saturn is saying, if you can dream it, then we can build it. So you have to be super committed to the life that you're building, things that you're growing, the manifestations that you're kind of piecing together and putting together in your mind's eye. So that'll also play into this full moon that we're going to have in Sagittarius. But that is a really significant aspect. You're going to hear that it's a very spiritual time. The transit we're essentially starting to lose once we get to about the 4th or the 5th of the month. Then we're going to start to see Jupiter separate from the North Node. We won't see this again for another 6 or 7 years. According to my notes, it looks like the last time that we had a Jupiter North Node connection was in June of 2016, and that was in Virgo. So the nice thing about having this taking place in Taurus is that, first of all, it's physical, it's tangible, right? We can see it, we can feel it, we can hold it, we can spend it. But also, this is in a Venus-ruled sign. And at the time of this particular conjunction, Venus is sitting in the late degrees of Cancer, forming a trine to Neptune. So it very much is about holding space emotionally, doing the deep emotional healing, really tapping into our psychic senses, being very much connected to our intuition. And we will also see later in the day, the moon is going to keep moving through Scorpio, even into the second that it's going to be trining Venus and Neptune. So those of you guys who want to make the most of these particular transits, the key here is that you can work either with really strong Jupiter elements. You can work with like Jupiter herbs that might be beneficial, stones that are associated with Taurus or abundance or Jupiter. And you can also be working with water, because we're going to see a grand water trine that's going to be setting up right around the time of this conjunction. Now, Jupiter was seen as the god of all gods. So he is someone who presides over all of the other ancient Greek and Roman gods. He does have connections to lightning bolts. He's also known as Zeus. He also has connections to laws and regulations and positivity and anything revolving around expansion and, like I said, life or growth. So this can be a really strong period for manifesting abundance, manifesting health, manifesting better self-esteem, really getting in touch with your sensuality and being in the body. I would really recommend, having a little bit of faith. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned from Jupiter transits. I think that Jupiter and Taurus, there is this sense of, I have to see it to believe it. And so there is some truth to that, right? But you have to take into consideration that the sextile and also the dispositor of this being Saturn is saying, not unless you've gone through that trust fall. So a lot of us are finding ourselves in situations right now with that particular aspect that we're like, okay, we know this thing is going to come through, but I don't see it yet. So do I cut and run, right? Do I continue to keep maintaining this devotion to this particular project or this relationship or this situation if I haven't seen any results yet? That can be the biggest thing that's coming up for some of us. And I would encourage you guys to be really getting in touch this week with some kind of spiritual devotion. So if you want to, chant, if you want to pray, if you guys want to practice meditation, if you want to recite your mantras, anything revolving around keeping that high vibration and really having devotions and acts where we're really showing that we're maintaining and keeping the faith. That's the most important thing that we should be doing all week long. There can be really strong wish fulfillment with Jupiter conjunct the North Node. And for many of us, because it has this Venus connection and the Venus trine Neptune, it can wash away any issues that we have been having in our love life. It could wash away any issues we've been having with our finances. It could bring some of us some kind of wish fulfillment when it comes to domestic things like home, family, children even. We're going to see Venus go into Leo pretty soon. So those of you guys who have been hoping for more support when it comes to your home base or when it comes to your family, or even just some emotional renewal, I do think that this is definitely a really positive omen throughout this entire week. And we're going to see this almost as like a seed that's being planted that will begin to manifest down the line. Like I said, every 6 or 7 years we have this conjunction. And, you know, having Venus that's getting ready to go through some more kind of turbulent waters between her Pluto opposition as she ingresses into Leo, or, you know, some of the squares that she's going to be experiencing. We're about to have some really wild Venus transits this summer. So it's a really nice aspect to have this being seated while Venus is in a trine with Neptune. So make sure you guys are doing something kind of magical. I'll talk a little bit about how to work with that when I get into the full moon portion of this video. Now I'm going to take you to Friday, which is going to be the 2nd. And this is when the Venus trine Neptune is going to come to fruition. So that's going to be taking place pretty much all day. And it looks like it's going to be trining around 27 degrees. Okay. So that trine, free-flowing, psychic, intuitive, emotional, empathic, and we're actually going to have a grand water trine. So it's really, really lovely to see this. I think I remember saying to you guys when Venus first trined Saturn, I believe the moon and Saturn were in Pisces. And so now we see the last real significant aspect Venus is going to be making before she ingresses. And it's a trine from the moon in Scorpio. Still difficult, but nevertheless, really positive. And I think it's helping us kind of tap into our spidey senses. Now, also on the same day, we're going to see, let's see, there was supposed to be something else happening here. Maybe not. Maybe I'm a day early. Okay. So then we see on the 3rd, this is Saturday. There we go. Saturday is when we're going to have the full moon in Sagittarius. I'm going to just get through the week and then I'll talk to you guys about that. But that'll be a full moon that's going to be at 13 degrees of Sag. So if you have any personal planets around, let's say 12 to 14 degrees of Sagittarius or sun, moon, rising, it's going to be really significant. And one of the big themes that we're going to see before that full moon happens is that we'll have a lunar ingress where the moon is going to ingress into Sagittarius. We're going to be feeling the full moon building. We got some wild stuff here. So moon trine Mars does make me feel like it's active, it's getting going, it's fiery, it makes us feel creative and passionate, and it's going to have all of us feeling like we need to kind of get the show on the road when it comes to expressing ourselves or expressing something relating to creativity, our love life, or joy. The downside is that right before we come into the full moon energy, we're going to see the moon square Saturn. And that's going to be a little bit emotionally discouraging. We're going to feel like there's going to be something changing about our beliefs or our philosophies, perhaps, with that particular transit. And then the moon is going to come to 13 degrees, and we're going to have that full moon. And that's going to be later in the evening. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully some of you guys are getting a chance to go and see the full moon on Saturday night. And then we go to the 4th, where the moon is going to continue to still be in Sagittarius. And the moon is going to start picking up on a square to Neptune. So this will be on Sunday. And then we're also going to have the long-awaited Mercury-Uranus conjunction. So as you guys know, Mercury's been retrograde. Now it's direct. It turned retrograde just short of coming into a conjunction with Uranus. So I like this day for unconventional conversations, new bright ideas, problem solving, It likely is going to be news coming out about the financial systems. This is happening at 20 degrees, which is a Scorpio degree, so something changing in regards to resources. But still, nevertheless, maybe that's also kind of picking up energy that's just after the full moon. And that'll be a quick moving transit as well. We don't really have too many aspects that can kind of release from. We're not seeing like any exact sextiles. We have a slight sextile to Neptune, so that can be about intuition, kind of tapping into our dreams, or, you know, our visions, or just like a hunch that we have about something. It can also be a day where we notice that there's some like glitches and some electrical things that are going on, because that's what Uranus is. And that's when we officially come out of shadow. So I find it interesting that connection is going to happen. And then we're also going to see the moon start coming into a quincunx. So there can be some kind of news that's like, you know, coming out in other parts of the world, and it's taking longer to reach some of us. And it may be actually unfolding over the first couple of days of the week next week. Okay. So really just what you want to watch for. Too long, didn't listen. Wednesday is a bit kind of chaotic with some of the ingresses in the grand fixed square that's going to take place. And it does kind of feel like grinding of the gears. And definitely watch on the 1st also for, excuse me, so it'll be the 31st is Wednesday, and then the 1st is when we have the Jupiter North Node conjunction, South Node Moon conjunction, what we're willing to drop and move away from, and how that allows us to be more so in the body, and what we're able to actually gain from that emotional kind of letting go process, right? All right, so let's get into the full moon. I want to talk to you guys all about this because I have a lot to say. Here we go. All right, so the full moon in Sag, June 3rd, 2023. It's going to be taking place at 8:44 p.m. Pacific time, and that's going to be 8:41 p.m. Pacific time. And that's going to be 11:41 p.m. Eastern. I know we've got people in other time zones. Just adjust your time accordingly depending on where you are. This will be a full moon taking place in the sign of Sagittarius. So I actually like full moon in Sag. I do feel like it is always a period where it brings us a sense of more positivity, things that are a little bit more upbeat, travel and optimism and education, culture seem to be like the major themes. This is going to be taking place at 13 degrees, so that's an Aries degree, which means it's going to be something relating to you personally, or there's some action, or there's this feeling of needing to get up and go somewhere and do something. Now, 13 degrees of Aries can also be like a full moon that's initiating something, or completing a cycle of something that might be personal or important for you. And we know that Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign. It is the 9th sign of the zodiac. So mutable fire does talk about things changing, revolving around action, life, excitement. And Sagittarius is very much connected to Jupiter. So I find it quite interesting that we've got this full moon while we're still feeling the Jupiter North Node connection. Granted, we're losing it, but it's still in close proximity. So it is possible that that Jupiter North Node conjunction took place. Then we have the full moon, and it's like making something feel bigger. Now, Jupiter is the traditional ruler of Sagittarius. Seeing Jupiter make this North Node connection 6 signs away from Sag brings up basically the quincunx, or the inconjunct relationship that Sagittarius and Taurus have. Taurus being ruled by Venus, it's fixed earth, it's about security, stability, personal possessions, what you hold on to, what you work hard for, you know, what you consume. And then Sagittarius is very Jupiter fire based, so it's like get up and go. So it has less weight to it than you know, a Taurus related energy. So it's interesting to see the ruler of this in that particular sign, where it's very grounded. There is a sense of focus. Obviously, we talked a little bit about the support that also is coming from Saturn, that's holding it down on the spiritual level, helping us maintain our beliefs. Perhaps some of us feeling a little gloomy or feeling a little isolated, but trying to make the best out of the situation. And I think it's supporting to have Jupiter in the sign during a full moon. And I also think it's unusual because the quincunx means that they do not see each other. So Quincunx we see where they basically make this funky angle to each other where it's not quite a trine, but it's not an opposition. So it's almost like a blind spot. It's something that you do not see. So the full moon's going to come in, and everybody needs to not just be looking at the house where you have the full moon. You guys need to be looking at your Taurus house, because it is basically saying, here's a full moon that's bringing something to light. But what you really want to be paying attention to is what was just seated with that North Node conjunction in Taurus. We cannot like ignore this in the cosmos right now, between a retrograde there, a Mercury Uranus connection, a Jupiter North Node connection. At this point, wherever Taurus is in our life, even if you're new to astrology, should be a very hot topic in your life right now. You should see a lot of action coming from that particular house. So in astrology, a full moon represents like a culmination or an illumination of energy, right? Because we see the moon become full because it's forming this opposition to the sun. So it's a time of heightened emotions, powerful energy, and it's very significant spiritually because it represents like a fulfillment. So you guys want to go back in time. You want to look at the new moon where it was planting seeds in Sagittarius season of 2022. That new moon now 6 months later has matured to a full moon. So something is now coming to a completion. And it's adding an extra layer of positivity, I think, because of that Jupiter aspect. So we're going to continue to keep seeing more positivity kind of streaming through this particular transit. It may be hard to see. That's the only thing that I'll say, because it's in that quincunx. It may be hard to see. And like I said, Jupiter or Sagittarius is associated with expansion, exploring, and it's always focused on like this quest for knowledge. And being that it's a fire sign, it's very active, and it's going to be very much connected to adventure. So it's possible that some kind of adventure is beckoning in our life at the time of this full moon, encouraging us to really go after what it is we want and paying attention to the spiritual lessons connected to that particular quest. Some themes that always come up for me during a full moon in Sag is like truth and authenticity. I think that that's one of the biggest things that Sagittarius is known for. During this time, it's probably going to be encouraging a lot of people to embrace our truths, expressing our honesty, and aligning with our core beliefs and values. So some of us may be feeling it's time to reflect on a spiritual path and connect with our higher selves. So that seems to be a big theme connected with Sagittarius, because they're out with lanterns looking for themselves, right? That's why they have this quest to continue learning, to continue traveling, to continue growing. Growth, that's another big thing. That's a Jupiter term. And Sagittarius is very much connected to expansion and personal growth. The moon in Sagittarius can bring opportunities for expansion in all areas of life, but in particular, spiritual growth, knowledge acquisition, personal development. So this will be a time where we're setting intentions for growth, exploring new horizons, and embracing a broader perspective. Look for just this really adventurous spirit that might come through you the day before, the day of, the day after, because I think Jupiter is really going to be pushing all of us to get more expansive in our lives. So we might be feeling a little wanderlust. We might be feeling like we have this desire to explore, but it's encouraging all of us to get outside of our comfort zones, to take risks and see new experiences that expand our awareness. And so it's interesting because Jupiter in Taurus, it wants to expand slowly, right? It doesn't want to do it quickly or suddenly. It's taking a much more cautious approach when it comes to expansion. So something about this full moon is kind of like pushing Jupiter almost in a way out of its comfort zone and trying to get the show on the road. And then watch for higher wisdom and intuition, because I think that this can be a a full moon that can bring us lots of spiritual insights. So it might enhance our spiritual abilities. It might allow us to really tap into a deeper level of our own spiritual wisdom. And it's a time to really focus on our inner guidance and connect with our intuition so we can align with some of our own personal truths. So let's take a look at the Sabian symbol for this particular full moon. I'd like to read it for you guys. And those of you guys who are new to my channel, or if you're not used to working with Sabian symbols, basically I work with this book that gives me a whole list of all of the various degrees, and I read the symbol that is connected to that particular degree, and it gives me like a little blurb about just like food for thought, keywords that we can kind of mull over, and some symbolism that's connected to that particular degree. And we always round up. So I'll be reading for you guys 14 degrees of Sagittarius. Many people always ask me, it's because very rarely do we see a planet or a transit exactly on that degree on the dot. This is 13 degrees and 18 minutes. So we're gonna read 14 degrees. If you guys wanna pick up this book, you guys can find it down below in my Amazon links. I have a whole Amazon storefront full of all of the books that I'm reading and recommending. So this is page 288, and this is Sagittarius 14. The pyramids and the Sphinx. The keyword is certification, building on the past. The symbol speaks to immortality and the physical or material evidence of the race's creative genius. It also testifies to the ability of future generations to survive and build even more magnificent realities on the foundations of the past. The image of the pyramids and the Sphinx symbolizes higher wisdom and knowledge. The three faces of the pyramid symbolize the threefold principle of creation, while the Sphinx alludes to the eternal mysteries. The emphasis on this degree is a man's need to have tangible or visible proof that he can make his mark on the world. At its highest, the symbol represents fertile imagination and a special talent for putting novel ideas into practical use. Watch for foolish efforts to look important. The accent is on finding inspiration in ordinary things and everyday experience. Your greatest advantage lies in using your imagination and to make your own mark on the world. Build continuously on prior achievements. Guard against the temptation to imitate others rather than to think to create something original or be yourself. Don't be fooled into believing that bigger is better. So stepping stones would be survival, accomplishment, achievement, testimony, proof, imagination, higher knowledge, Egyptian, or mystery. I'm curious to see if something comes about in regards to this, if there's some kind of finding, if there's some kind of like breakthrough in archaeology or something. You know, sometimes these Sabian symbols will materialize quite literally. But building on the past, and I also really liked that it touched on, where is it that it said? It said something that I just mentioned. What was it? To have tangible proof that he can make his mark on this world. So remember how I said how, you know, Jupiter and Taurus says, okay, I need to see it to believe it. And the sextile to Saturn is like, no, you don't need tangible proof. You just need to believe it. You just need to follow your intuition. You need to listen to that inner voice. You need to just know what you need to be building and like not getting kind of lost in the static of the rest of the world. I also like that it talks about using your imagination to make your mark on the world, building continuously on prior achievements. So the North Node Jupiter can literally be what we're building, right? What we're creating. And following those intuitive hunches that, you know, it's going to end up panning out, or that the visions that we've been having, or the readings that we've been having, or what's been coming up for us in meditation, you know, reminds me of the movie Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come. For some of us, we're having that in our life right now. I know I am. I'm having that with like a particular project that I'm a little resistant to doing, but I keep having this feeling that's like, okay, it keeps coming up, so it's something that I need to do. So I'm gonna probably see what comes up around the time of the full moon, if that's something that's supposed to be getting going, you know? Using your imagination to make your mark on the world. I really like that. And yes, you know, seeing is believing. Jupiter and Taurus, but Saturn is basically saying you're not going to be rewarded, right? Unless you're keeping the faith. We can't be so focused on immediate gratification. You know, hard work does pay off. Sometimes things don't just miraculously appear. You have to keep trying. You have to keep going back to the drawing board, reworking things. And there is like a test of faith that's going on, I think, for a lot of people right now. And whatever comes up during this particular full moon, because this is 6 signs away, we may realize that we have to put in a little bit more work. We have to put in a little bit more effort. You know, this is a very busy full moon. The full moon feels very busy to me. And kind of touching a little bit on, you know, more on that Jupiter North Node connection, like High time for beliefs, prayers, right? And intent around growth. Big things that are manifesting right now. You know, Jupiter in the North Node in conjunction in Taurus is very potent. It's going to be something that, even though it's playing out over a couple of days, you're going to see, because it's factored into this full moon, it's going to have a much bigger energy than I think many of us were expecting. Yes, it deals with abundance, but the fact that it's aligning with the North Node is not just about money, it's about karmic growth and potential for emotional and spiritual realms. It suggests that aligning with our true values, nurturing our self-worth, embracing practicality, we can experience increased prosperity and fulfillment in our life's journey. And that may not necessarily be in a physical sense. It can be emotional fulfillment. It can be personal growth. It can be personal philosophy and belief. It can be education. The list goes on. I think that Jupiter North Node connection is also a lot about spiritual grounding and embodiment. Because Taurus energy encourages us to connect with the physical world and grounding in our spiritual practices. With Jupiter's influence, the conjunction invites us to bridge the gap between the material and the spiritual world, bringing our spiritual ideas into practical application in an embodied experience. So it emphasizes the importance of finding spiritual meaning and connection with our everyday lives, fostering a deep sense of appreciation for the simple pleasures and beauty of the physical world. So rather than opting for the expensive, indulgent things, we're going to be feeling this need to like get back down to basics, to have what's natural, to have what comes naturally to us, to what may not be artificial, what might be organic, right? And things that money cannot necessarily buy. And I think it's going to continue to keep pushing out this like message of expansion of self-worth and personal values, because I think it's going to really be encouraging us to really looking at what we truly find valuable in life. And Jupiter's presence is going to amplify these themes, and it's basically indicating that it's a time for growth in how we perceive and embody our own personal self-worth. So the alignment encourages us to explore our core values, identify what it really truly means to us, and expand in the understanding of abundance beyond material possessions. It invites us to cultivate a sense of self-worth that is rooted in our authenticity and aligns with our spiritual path. I love that. I'm so excited for this part of it in particular. Because in many ways, I think especially as that North Node comes into conjunction with Jupiter, a few days prior when we saw the South Node in Scorpio, it's what we lose, but what we have to gain from that loss, right? I've said to you guys before, like what the heart grieves over losing, sometimes the soul will rejoice. So there can be a sense of releasing and decluttering and detoxifying, and then having this moment of clarity and truly finding abundance and possibly being able to find enlightenment through that process. Nurturing in a sense of sensual exploration. Taurus is known for its sensual and nurturing qualities. So when Jupiter aligns with the North Node in Taurus, it's highlighting the importance of self-care, self-nurturing, exploring our sensual nature. It's encouraging us to embrace our physical senses, find joy and pleasure, prioritize self-love and self-acceptance as a part of our spiritual growth and journey. So I think a lot of this is going to be looking at how we find pleasure, right? And are we overdoing it? The Jupiter North Node could be overindulging, overspending, over-sexualizing. That can happen, especially as we see, Mars squaring the nodes. A lot of us are going to be finding that we may be overly indulging in things because we think that's what pleasure is, or we think that's what's going to bring us security. But what we're realizing is that it's so much more than that, that it's about getting in touch with all of our senses, and also being able to focus on what's ultimately going to make us feel good. And what may actually make us feel good requires us to take some action with the squares to Mars, and it also is requiring us to cut something out. For a lot of people, it can be sugar, it can be processed food, it can be alcohol, it could be, impulse spending, it can be relationships that we have for physical purposes only. And it can also be about really looking at the way that we look at pleasure and learning not to look at pleasure as something that's taboo, looking at where we might be denying ourselves pleasure, where we might be, disregarding ways of being able to pleasure ourselves, and like how it's like this thing that's like looked down on in society. I think we're going to be really taking a look at, with the Jupiter North Node, what we are doing to get more so in touch with our bodies. And that pleasure in touch and what feels good is not necessarily a bad thing. It's human nature, right? That's really going to be the long and short of it. I think the biggest thing, though, is, like I said, that disjointment that's going on to Jupiter is going to be possibly bringing up for us during the full moon, that there's something going on because it's 6 signs away that is a little annoying, or it's a little agitating, or it's something that we just can't quite, like an itch we can't quite scratch, if that makes sense. That's how I see like quincunxes. Other aspects, though, like I said, we've got that Jupiter-Saturn sextile providing steady growth. We've got Jupiter that is still in a square with Pluto, okay? It's now lessening. We're going to see it ease up pretty quickly, but that fixed T-square involving Mars and the nodes is alive and well. And when we see, fixed squares, it basically means it's time to get separate things in our life moving. Mars is the fastest moving planet in this square. So as soon as we see Mars get a few more degrees, I think we're going to be out of it for the most part. But we're still going to see the sun come into some squares over the summer. We're about to see Venus now follow in Mars's footsteps, oppose Pluto, square the nodes, and square some other placements in Taurus. We're going to be also noticing that there is a slight mutable square, right? We've got the sun and the moon in the sign of Gemini and Sagittarius, which can all be about communication, travel, knowledge, information, education. Where Gemini can be more basic communication, gadgets, getting around in your local environment, earlier education and development. Sagittarius is more foreign travel, college education, higher education, philosophy, going to other places, getting outside of your typical kind of day-to-day life and seeing what the rest of the world looks like. So when we see this full moon set up, it's roughly about a 6-degree square, but it is squaring Saturn. So we've got that square taking place, and Saturn is the focal point. So it's still giving us like that pinch from the Sun-Saturn square where, yeah, some of us are still feeling the challenges and the delays and like low confidence. There is a sense of doubt. There is a sense of questioning things. And I think that that's really important to be paying attention to. It's normal to have doubts. It's normal to sometimes change our mind. That's something that I've been learning a lot with, Uranus transits and Mercury transits in like the last, year or two, is that we can shift our perspective. It is okay to be able to do that. Sagittarius is a sign that's going to be pushing us to focus on what is the higher path. Where are we aligning with integrity? Where are we aligning also with our soul's needs and lessons? So as the moon comes into a square with Saturn and the sun's coming into a square with Saturn, perhaps we're arguing, or there's conflict, or there's lots of headlines where certain, countries aren't getting along, or there's some kind of, racial issues or some, religious issues. Like you're always going to see this when you see Sag and Pisces in a square. But when Gemini comes into the mix, it becomes much more of a hot topic on the news and on media. And we're seeing this anyway with Mars square the nodes, that there is more conflict revolving around war and tensions in general. I think also with like that moon square Saturn, just emotional hangups, sometimes when we see the moon square Saturn, there's like privacy issues where we're feeling like somebody's invading our emotional space. And then the moon quincunx Mercury for me is a big one because it's also a really significant aspect. Mercury's coming into conjunction with Uranus, but that quincunx is like they're really not reconciling with each other. And when you have this aspect between Mercury and the moon, it means that there's an emotional, like there's your emotional mind that's at odds with your rational mind. And they're like strangers to one another, and like they're not seeing eye to eye. So where the moon in Sag wants to be adventurous, and it wants to talk about big things, and it wants to expand, and it wants to share, moon in Taurus is like, nope, that's not how things work. This is how things work. It's very literal. Mercury in Taurus is black and white. So there is going to be a sense of people talking about how can we unite the world? How can we, bring things together? And Mercury Uranus is talking about how there's something very rigid going on about systems or about finances or about banking. So you're going to see lots of conflict in regards to world economics and, financial kind of division from country to country. Sun sextile Chiron, we've got that by about 5 degrees. So that's opportunity for healing words, healing through communication, writing, phone calls, sharing with other people. Perhaps being able to kind of share where we feel like, we are having some hangups or we're having some challenges or where we need some help or where we're a little cautious to speak out because of that Sun square Saturn. And then finally, the Mercury-Uranus connection. We've been waiting for that. That has been something that we have been waiting for since the time that the Mercury shadow started over a month ago, bringing opportunity for sudden ideas, innovation, unexpected communication. There might be an email you get or a phone call you get out of the blue that you didn't see coming, right? It is possible that, there is a solution that you come up with to a problem. Problems are very sixth house, conflicts, accidents, problems, things that you need to fix. So there's something here with the Sagittarius full moon that's like triggering that. And the key here is, I think, is to take action, trine Mars, to not feel emotionally stunted or hide out, and to be willing to admit where, you've been wrong or where there's some room for growth or there's some room for change. And that's really, I think, that sums up the Sagittarius Gemini axis perfectly, is that they are mutable signs. Things can change. We can change our mind. We can change where we live. We can change our belief system. It's just a matter of being able to go and properly educate ourselves, or travel, experience the world, see other places, so that way we can make better informed decisions, right? All right, so ritual ideas for this particular full moon. Obviously, Sagittarius is a fire sign, so you can't go wrong. If you want to do something involving a candle, obviously be careful if you're working with fire. And I would be doing anything leading up to this full moon. That's just me. Because the North Node connection happens on the 1st. You guys can start doing your full moon work if you want, pretty much any time from like the 1st through the 4th. I would really recommend doing something for Jupiter. Different traditions have different colors. Some people say Jupiter is very strongly associated with like a yellowish orange or almost like a golden orange. But you can also work with like a dark yellow, or you can work with a violet. It's up to you. If you like to work with herbs, I really recommend hyssop, because hyssop works very well when there is any aspects involving like the moon or Jupiter. And since we have Jupiter in Taurus, I think like a hyssop bath can be really great if you want to like steep some hyssop in like a pot, and then you want to put it in a bathtub. You can also work with chamomile, mint, fennel, okay? And these are things that you could throw some mint and chamomile in a mug, right? And sit and meditate and set your intentions, and then you could drink some tea because it is warm and you are working and building off of that Venus trine Neptune. I personally like couch grass. Some people call it witch's grass. I think it's also called five-finger grass for setting intentions, bringing things in. I also really like working with like magnetic sand and lodestones for any like attraction work. If you don't have that, you can use a magnet. It works perfect. So those of you guys who want to do like abundance type rituals or altars, you can do that as well. I like working with grapefruit oil for Sagittarius, and for incense, I would recommend frankincense, myrrh, juniper, or white sage, because sage has connections with the sign of Sagittarius. And probably the most readily available and the easiest stones you can work with would be amethyst or lapis. But I would also recommend like pyrite. You can use that as well for a Sagittarius full moon. And I would really recommend, if you guys want, look up your planetary hours. There's lots of free apps for this. Those of you guys who already work with like magical things, you know what this is. But, obviously the days of the week are ruled by certain signs. This is going to be a full moon coming in on a Saturday. That's a Saturn day. You can start doing your work for the full moon if you guys want on Friday or Thursday. That's why I said I would start doing my full moon work on the 1st. That's just me. because Thursday is going to be the day for Jupiter, Friday is the day for Venus, and then Saturn, the day that we have the full moon, is Saturn day. But if you want to look up your planetary hours, if you're like, oh, I have to do it on a certain day, go and look at the planetary hour for where you live for Jupiter hour. There's going to be a little bit more than an hour for 24 hours out of the day. That's going to be a representative of each individual planet. So it's going to have more planetary potency. And I would also recommend, if you have a tarot deck, pull out the Wheel of Fortune card. So I would get like a candle. You could put a little pinch of herbs in there. Put out, you know, if you want to put out some money, or if you want to put out some crystals for abundance or for health, or if you're focusing on personal self-growth or self-esteem or healthier relationship and more connection to your values, you can do that as well. And then light a candle and sit and meditate the 1st through the 4th. And see what manifests, because this is a really strong wishing portal that's opening. And put that Wheel of Fortune card out as well. And let me know what manifests for you guys. I would love to hear what happens for you. I'm going to take you guys just quickly through the 12 rising signs for the full moon. And I'm going to let you know what card you get and also what my predictions are for your sign. So let's go ahead and start first with Aries and Aries rising. And I'm going to be working with, somebody asked me in one of my last videos what this is, the Lucid Dreams Beginner's Deck. I like this deck a lot. And I will be pulling a card for each and every one of the 12 signs, letting you know where this is taking place. As always, I'm a Western astrologer. I practice Western astrology. I'm going to be making the predictions for the whole 12 rising signs. So if you're a Placidus user like me, you have to go and look at your chart. You have to see where 13 degrees of Sagittarius is. That's where you're going to see the full moon, okay? So, yeah. And if you want to listen to your progress chart, you can do that. And also, just a heads up, like I said, any Sagittarius placements from, let's say, 12 to about maybe 14, 15 degrees is going to be the most active. The other fire signs, like Leo and Aries, you will benefit from this full moon because it will trine you in some capacity. The air signs, you'll receive a sextile, specifically Aquarius and Libra. It's beneficial for you. Obviously, Gemini, it's your 7th house. And then for the earth and water signs, they're hitting other parts of your chart. Not that they aren't important, but they're not as active. And if you happen to be a mutable sign, right, Gemini, Virgo, Sag, or Pisces, around 12, 13, 14 degrees, you'll experience a square. So it is going to be a little bit more active for you. So let's first start with Aries and Aries rising. Guys, you're going to be having this full moon that's taking place in the sign of Sagittarius in your natal 9th house. Expanding your personal values, money spent on travel or education. And I say this because while the full moon is in the 9th house, so you could graduate, you could find out that you're publishing a book, you could complete a class, you might be going on a trip. At the time, Jupiter, which is the ruler, is in your 2nd house. Okay, so you're spending your own personal money on that. Maybe you're bringing money in from education. Maybe you're indulging in luxurious travel. Your values and your optimism is expanding in some way during this particular full moon. And obviously Sagittarius is a sister sign. I'm really excited to see this full moon in your 9th house because it's going to be trining your sun, moon, or rising. And it's also making some nice harmonious aspects to Mars in your 5th house. So romance, travel, pleasure, having fun, all seems to kind of be on the agenda for you at the time of this full moon. The card that I got for you is the 7 of Pentacles. So this card is long-term investments, patience, perseverance, hard work, success, waiting, harvest, and results. So it's interesting because it's like, maybe you know that money is coming in, right? And you feel it. And you're like, okay, I know this is going to be coming. I'm just waiting for it. And this is waiting for your crops to grow, waiting for things to come in. The 2nd house could literally be what grows. Some of you guys might be learning about growing or growing your financial health or growing your business. There might be something about you guys learning more about food, learning more about cooking or gardening here as well. Good luck. We've got Taurus and Taurus rising. What's going on, guys? You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Sagittarius. That's going to be taking place in your natal 8th house. This is going to be really highlighting personal transformation, deep intimacy, sexual expression, and expansion of all kinds. So while the full moon is in the 8th house of joint resources, taxes, other people's money, anything in regards to, business partners or spouse's income, there can be some kind of growth there. It could happen very suddenly, right? But Jupiter happens to be in your sign. So it's really saying that you're going through a personal rebirth period. There's a huge transformation going on for you. Some of you guys are thinking about making changes to your body. Some of you guys are thinking about growing your body, lifting weights, getting bigger. Some of you guys who are younger are going through some growth spurts. It is possible that some of you guys are also going through a transformation and you're healing some kind of trauma, or you're finally becoming more comfortable with intimacy and sexual expression. And some of you guys may also be experiencing pregnancy because Jupiter is on your ascendant. I think you guys are feeling like it's a brand new cycle for you. It's like a brand new cycle of life that's going on right now. Very exciting. The card that I got for you is the 5 of Swords, which is challenging. This is a card that's about conflict, disagreement, competitiveness, working through things at all costs, working through intimidation, fear, right? Feeling challenged. It is possible that with Jupiter being here, it's like about you finally moving through issues with some of this in the past. And feeling like it's time for you to like be reborn. You know, Jupiter's in your sign. It's going to be protecting you. But I'm wondering if this is about some kind of like conflict that's coming up for you where you're feeling that your morals are being questioned in some way, or there is some kind of moral dilemma maybe that you have with work or superiors or career. Maybe you're afraid of change, and so there's some conflicts and some disagreements that are kind of going on right now. This is a difficult card, but it is a minor arcana, so it does mean that you can overcome this, and it's just really important for you to be in tune with the fact that things are changing, and change can be a good thing, right? We don't want to kind of push back against that. Good luck, Taurus. We've got Gemini and Gemini rising. You'll be experiencing a full moon in Sagittarius in your natal 7th house of other people. So this is going to be interesting here, Gemini, okay? Because I think truths are going to be revealed within relationships. Hidden conversations, pillow talk, subconscious information. This can be a wonderful time to be meeting with a counselor, a therapist, or an astrologer, because at the time of the full moon, Jupiter will be in the 12th house. Now, it can mean that there's travel going on. Perhaps maybe you're traveling, going on a trip, or you've got a partner that's in a foreign land. But it also means that you're going deeper into your subconscious, learning how to kind of ground your energy and find more security and finding peace within yourself. Obviously, full moons can bring completions within relationships. That is very possible, but it doesn't have to be negative. It can mean a turning point where you realize that you're ready to go to the next stage in a relationship. You're realizing that you're ready for commitment. You are feeling the pressure though, because this full moon is going to be squaring Saturn, and it is going to be in opposition to your sign. So there is some sense of maturity, growing up, having to really show up for other people. And I think there's a lot changing in your professional life. And I think that you're starting to kind of realize like where that can be impacting also your relationship with other people. The card that I got for you guys is the Empress. She's been coming up a lot lately. This is a positive card. This talks about the opportunity for birth, for, being able to get in touch with your inner, your inner goddess. I mean, really channeling divine feminine energy. It can be about mothers. It can be about embracing things, nurturing things. The moon can be about family. I don't necessarily think this is going to be about having issues with family, but I wonder if this is like a situation where there's some growing pains that are going on within relationships, and there can be some, parenting issues or issues relating to parents that can be playing out in relationships because of the square from Saturn in the 10th house. Good luck. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. What's going on, guys? You're going to have a full moon in Sagittarius taking place in your natal 6th house. And at the time, Jupiter is going to be in your 11th house in Taurus of friends. So this makes me feel like you're really focusing on health goals, a lot of support coming in from friends, working together with groups of people. It is possible that you're getting jobs or gigs because you're working with people. It's possible that you're taking fitness classes or cooking classes or acting classes with others, maybe traveling with other people. That's possible. Now, a full moon in the 6th house can bring changing of jobs. It can bring some kind of office drama. It can also bring an awareness of health issues or health problems. So the good news is that if there is a health crisis, if there is a job crisis, you've got support from friends that are here to help. Equally, if you're wanting to learn new health skills, or if you're wanting to get back into fitness or going to the gym, you've got people who are willing to support you. So it depends on what your dilemma is. Reach out to other people. You might find that work or health solutions are right around the corner. You may know somebody who's willing to kind of support you or give you some kind of guidance in some capacity. And if you've been wanting to clear out bad habits, end something, it looks like you're able to join a group or an association that can kind of help you with the process of completing that. So if you're wanting to stick to a health routine, if you're wanting to consistently go to the gym, you might go with a friend. And if you're also looking to have support from other people who have gone through some similar challenges that you've gone through, it looks like you're going to have some friends who are going to be able to kind of support you and give you some feedback. Card that I get for you is the 9 of Swords. Working through stress and anxiety, sleepless nights, overthinking. And I do think that this can be, you've got the sun in the 12th house. It's like, what am I going to do? What's going to happen to me? How is this going to go? And the moon in the 6th house can be showing you where emotional issues are impacting or affecting you physically, health-wise, or your ability to get things done. Anxiety, stress is Mercury, Uranus. And so, it's in the skies right now. Mercury is conjunct Uranus. Everybody's going to be feeling like they're kind of super hyped up on caffeine, feeling like little stress balls. But it is possible that you've got somebody who can kind of help work you through this and kind of give you some insight to, combating some of the stresses that are going on either in your health or in your work life. You just have to know who to ask, okay? Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. What's going on, Leo? We're going to be having a full moon taking place in Sagittarius, and that'll be in your natal 5th house. And Sagittarius is your sister sign. So we've got some nice aspects from the full moon to your sun, moon, or rising, equally to Mars. So when we have this full moon, it's going to be taking place in your 5th house. And I feel like because it's connected to Jupiter, and you've got Jupiter in the 10th house, there's themes where there's something that you're very proud of that's coming front and center. If you're self-employed, if you're, doing something artistic or creative, it might be on display. It is possible that if you're somebody who's in a gig, who performs gigs, or you're in a band, or you're a performer, or you're an artist, that you're going to get quite a bit of recognition and success for something that you have created. Some of you guys have a great deal of pride revolving around your children, right? Because Jupiter rules the 5th house. Something about your creative life, your love life, or your children can be made public. There can be an announcement about your children, that they got a new job, that they're graduating, that, they're having kids. Something like that can be happening if your kids are older. Some of you guys might just be, telling other people that you're getting ready to be a parent. That could be something else that could be coming up for the first time. And I'm looking at that Mercury-Uranus connection, and there definitely does seem to be a lot of telling the world about something that's going on with your relationships and some of your goals. And a full moon in the 5th house can be a time where you're falling in love, you're completing a creative project, you have a really amazing date night, there's romance in the air. It can be a time where you're meeting somebody if you're not partnered, okay? So I know some of you guys are single, but if you're looking for love, it is possible when you have a full moon in the 5th house. The card that I got for you is the 2 of Pentacles. This is about making decisions, options, choices, feeling like you're weighing your options. So I'm wondering, with this in a trine to your 1st house, you might be like, okay, is it this person? Is it someone else? Do I want to be with just one person? Do I want to just work on one project? There can be a sense of feeling like yeah, you have to make a decision. And the good news is that with Jupiter at the top part of your chart, to me, it seems like there's a multitude of options and there's lots of like new creative ways for you to be able to express yourself, especially when it comes to your professional life. And those of you guys who are feeling like my professional life's not going anywhere, you might start weighing your options and questioning whether or not, you want to start a new hobby or if you want to start a side business, or if there's something that really interests you that you could potentially consider to start doing in a professional manner. Okay, so maybe you're doing two things. Good luck, Leo. We got Virgo and Virgo rising. You're going to be having a full moon in Sagittarius in your natal 4th house. So this is your home, your family, and your 4th house full moon is going to be brought to you by Jupiter in the 9th. So the notes that I have for you, Virgo, is possibly venturing back home. You might be thinking about a distant move or planning a trip or going back to somewhere you've been around. If you have in-laws, there can be themes revolving around in-laws that are coming up or reconnecting with family in another place. And also opportunities to have some positive things going on for you in terms of education, relocation, moving away for school, taking a job at another location, publishing, law, and legality, okay? Because Jupiter's in the top part of your chart here. Jupiter also has connections to your 7th. So the fact that it's in your 9th and it's in a sextile makes me wonder if some Virgo and Virgo risings are traveling to try to meet a partner. They're connecting with a partner in a distant land. They're going back and forth about whether or not they would relocate for love, or maybe they're looking for love and connecting with people from their hometown or from the past. Overall, though, a full moon in the 4th house can bring completions of homes. So you can buy homes, sell homes, move in, move out of a place. There could be something going on at home with family. If so, it looks like that they're in another place further away. Like I said at the time, we're going to see Mercury and Uranus coming in a conjunction. So Mercury rules your chart and Uranus rules your 6th. Some of you guys might get word that something's going on with relatives. You need to fly back home. It's interfering with your schedule, right? Or reconnect with family in some way. The card that I got for you is the Wheel of Fortune. So whatever's happening, everything's going to work out. It's going to be for the better. This is a positive change. This is a positive move. So whether it's changing jobs, whether this is, moving, or you're just wanting to kind of like start over when it comes to your home, emotional or private life, the Wheel of Fortune promises good luck, fate, cycles that are kind of turning, karma, and also unexpected positive events. I like this for you, Virgo. I feel like it's going to get really busy. I mean, especially if you have anything around that, 12, 13, 14 degrees of Virgo, sun, moon, or rising, because you're the one sign that's going to be experiencing grand mutable squares. So you'll feel like you're changing, home's changing, career and relationships are changing because all of these mutable placements are coming into a square with your personal placements. And mutable squares are easier to navigate because they're all allowing one thing to come to a completion to allow other things to begin. Good luck. We got Libra and Libra rising. What's going on, guys? You got a full moon in Sagittarius taking place in your natal 3rd house. This is going to be interesting for you, Libra, because at the time of the full moon, which is in your 3rd house, it's hosted by Jupiter in Taurus in your natal 8th. So for me, what I have for you here is magic spells, communications expanding, lucrative contacts, travel, and new languages. Ooh. So, Jupiter being in the 8th house, tricky house, because it's going to really start showing you where change is coming very quickly. The 8th house is joint resources, money from spouses, inheritance. It can also be about taxes, something connected to resources growing that deal with other people. Now, Jupiter is connected to your 3rd house, so there could be inheritances that you're getting from uncles or aunts or, extended relatives. It could mean that you're looking at expanding your car because it has connections to your 3rd house and how you get around. There can be writing contracts, increased sales on websites, or if you have blogs, podcasts, YouTube channels, you could be making more money from that right now. And then lucrative contracts can come in. But when we see a full moon in the third house, sometimes we are seeing something in regards to a completion with a sibling, a big conversation, a meeting, something we sign, going on a trip somewhere, things that require communication. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with this, because around the same time, we're also seeing the Mercury-Uranus communication in your 8th. So it's clear that there is something getting ready to change anyway about your resources. And even if you're like, I'm not getting anything, at some point between now and the spring of next year, you should see a significant increase in your resources connected to other people. The card that I got for you is the Six of Swords. I do think it's travel related, Libra and Libra rising, because full moon in the third house could be you're on vacation, you know, you're taking a road trip, you're going somewhere. And this is about transitions, leaving one thing behind, moving on to the next, calmer waters, distance, accepting lessons. And so maybe it's about the way that you're thinking about or expressing or communicating change. How you're looking at like letting go, and that, you know, it may be best to like let some things go because it's creating space and room for new people, new relationships, but also like new ways of thought, new ways of thinking, and changing the way that you look at endings and letting go. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, we have got a full moon taking place in the sign of Sagittarius. And this will be in your natal second house, which is about money, resources, and spending, hosted by a Jupiter in Taurus in your natal 7th house. Scorpio, this is going to be about making money together, okay? So if you have a business partner, if you have a collaborator, if you have a, a space where you sell things, this can be your marketplace, this could be clients. If you happen to also be in a committed relationship, if you're committed, if you're married, this can be your spouse. So basically what it's saying is that there's opportunity to bring in more clients, something lucrative, bringing people in that you can work with. These people might have more resources. They might have money because Jupiter rules your second house. And this is marketplace growth, powerful financial alliances. So any which way you cut it, this is going to be positive for you, Scorpio. I do feel like there are other people who want what you have or what you have to offer, and they're willing to pay for it. So to me, it looks like, especially if you're like in a consulting position, if you're in a position where you design or you create or you sell things for other people, people are going to be very interested in what you have, especially if you're working with like art, jewelry, astrology, if you're in the financial world, because this is all in Taurus. The one thing that I would say to be mindful of, Scorpio, is that we are seeing lots of squares that are still taking place between your 10th and your 4th house. So it does benefit you in some way to have somebody who can give you a little bit of feedback, right? Because Jupiter is supposed to be who's benefiting you, but the full moon is in the 2nd house. So it means that you might be talking to other people about what you want to get paid, what you want your salaries to be, what you're spending. You and your partner can be talking about what your expenses are, what your budget is, and making larger purchases. You may have more spending power because a partner or somebody is showing up and they have something to offer. The card that I get is the Chariot. Things moving quickly. Action, success, movement, willpower, determination, and moving towards your goal. So if you're on the same page with a business partner, a spouse, about what your financial goals are, likely you're going to be able to achieve that, and you're going to see that you're moving closer and closer to your goal. Good luck, Scorpio. For Sag and Sag rising, obviously this is a big one because we're going to be having a full moon that's going to be in your sign. Let me take this back. It's going to drive me crazy. We have a full moon that's taking place in your sign, Sag. So this is your full moon, okay, in your 1st house of self, appearance, and body. Now at the time, Jupiter is in your natal 6th house. So for you, I have health and body, healing thyself, changing personal habits, and the results that you have from self-care. Obviously, a full moon in your 1st house is in opposition to the sun in the 7th. So there is some sense of what you need versus what other people need. If you happen to be within that 12 to, 14, 15 degrees of Sagittarius, you're going to be feeling it, especially with the square to Saturn. There can be a sense of having challenges within relationship to family and loved ones. There can be challenges revolving around you and another person and where you're living. So, you know, relationships might be a big theme, but there might be challenges revolving around letting go of the past, living in two separate places, trying to figure out how to kind of come together with that square to Saturn. But Jupiter, which is your chart ruler, is conjunct the North Node in the 6th, which means like you're all about trying to find solutions. You're about having a better routine. There is a sense of being really mindful about your health, your diet, and your wellness, because you have seen a retrograde in your 6th house. Some of you guys are getting back into working out, back into making changes with your health. You're making changes at work. That's possible here as well. But whenever the 1st or the 6th house gets triggered, it's always about health and body. So can things come up health-wise? Yeah, but only if you're not dealing with your emotions, and it can have an effect on you emotionally. And there can be a sense of that also impacting your relationships. But if you're having these issues, North Node and Jupiter is protecting you, saying like there's herbalists that are nearby who are ready to help, especially if you're having emotional issues. Equally, there's going to be, you know, people who will help you take care of like animals if you have animals having health problems. If you need a trainer, if you need a new doctor, if you need an assistant, because you might just be feeling like you're running yourself ragged and you need somebody to kind of help in some capacity. Great time to be focusing on seeing the results of having changed your habits as well. The card that I got for you is the Hermit card, which is so cool because that's a very 6th house energy. Introspective, inward, spiritual journey, illumination, soul searching, inner guidance, and withdrawal. But this is a card that's connected to Virgo, and Virgo is your 10th house. And so something you're going to see, which you've seen this past month, and you're going to see this again at the end of summer, is opportunities to change your work and your health routines for the better. And I think this is about that inner knowing and kind of tapping in and knowing when to make these changes. Good luck, Sag. I hope it's a good full moon for you. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Sagittarius in your natal 12th house. And this is going to be sponsored by Jupiter in Taurus in your 5th. So for you, Capricorn, this is very spiritual, opportunity for romance, potential travel opportunities, and hidden creative talents emerging. Secret or hidden like crushes or romantic connections, and just feeling very inspired because Jupiter's connection in your 5th house. So when you have a full moon in the 12th, there is a sense of like completing things cycling out. You might feel a little bit more like you need your space, you need your rest, you need your alone time. You do have the sun going through the 6th, which can be about health and daily routine. So when you have action in the 6th and the 12th, we have to pay attention to the mind, body, and the spirit. But what's beautiful is that if you are spending a lot of time by yourself, or maybe you're just focusing on, you know, hanging out in an office or a creative space and like getting lost and feeling like inspired and like wanting to read a really good romance novel, or wanting to have like a luxurious kind of like, you know, date that's very kind of like on the down low, or maybe traveling with a romantic partner. Any of these things are possible. I think that some of you guys with Jupiter being in the 5th house are going to find someone or something that you fall in love with. So it can be another indication that romance is on the horizon. It might be a secret romance or something abroad. And it's a really good indication also that you're really getting in touch with your inner child and your inner creative self. And you may have some hunches or some feelings that something is coming, whether it's a person or like a opportune moment for, you know, some creative work, or even a pregnancy with Jupiter in the North Node in the 5th house. You might have a dream that something is getting ready to emerge. So let's take a look here, see what the cards say. I think the hidden talent could also be like writing. I know that's come up a couple times, but the card that I got for you is the 7 of Wands. So this is about standing your ground, right? Having boundaries, but also coming out on top, being able to kind of protect something that's important to you. I feel like this is about you being like, I have to, you know, get the show on the road with my love life or with a creative project, like feeling like you have to get active with something. And with the 7 of Wands, there is a sense of like sometimes breaking new ground and doing something completely different than how you've done it in the past. But standing up for yourself, it can be challenging, but it's also about perseverance. So I think that some of you guys are also going to be working through, you know, some challenges in the inner child department, or in the self-expression or self-love department. Those of you guys who are dealing with children, there can be a sense of like really having to teach kids or something changing with like sleep schedules pertaining to younger people. Good luck. We've got Aquarius and Aquarius rising. You're going to be experiencing a full moon in Sagittarius in your natal 11th house. And this is going to be the house of friends, networks, and wishes. So very strong wish energy for you, Aquarius. And this is going to be hosted by Jupiter, which is going to be in your 4th house of home and family in the sign of Taurus. So for you, I have celebrations with friends and family, expansion of dreams and goals, possibly traveling or having other people come and stay and visit you. So full moons in the 11th house can be parties, it can be celebrations, good news from friends, some kind of wish fulfillment, joining a network, starting a group. But to me, it looks like all of this is happening on the home front. So like there's, maybe, family meetings, maybe there's going to be family coming to visit from out of town, maybe you're visiting and you're going back home with Jupiter in your 4th and you're able to see friends you haven't seen in a while. People from the past or friends from the past come back. You might have people who come and stay with you or vice versa. I know some of you guys are on the move with some of these squares and you might be moving back to your hometown, moving back home, or moving in with friends. But for the most part, the parties or the good luck is actually coming more in like a domestic sense. So it may not be out and about as much as you would like, but I do think there is going to be a lot to celebrate in terms of the expansion that's going on within your home and your private life. And it can be very lively. So there can be people showing up, bringing food over to the house, wanting to, partake in like, building out gardens and cooking dinners and like lots going on within like the home base that's bringing the family together in some capacity and feeling like you're having a good time. You could really use some good news. So this is definitely some good news for you with this full moon. The card that I got for you is the Empress. Okay, so some of you guys might be having new additions in the family. Some of you guys are spending time with your mom. Some of you guys are excited to go and visit mom, or she's coming to see you. This can also be about motherhood or, nurturing and taking care of the self. It's not unusual when I see Jupiter in the 4th that there's more like family that are coming and staying and visiting. So I'm wondering if there's going to be like family reunions that's going on and you're able to kind of connect with other people and see how the family might actually be growing. Good luck. That's a good one. And then we have our Pisces and Pisces rising. You'll be having a full moon in Sagittarius in your natal 10th house, which is all about your career, your reputation, your public image, what you're doing out in the world. So there's a completion of that. And this is brought to you by Jupiter in Taurus in your 3rd house. Now, Jupiter is also your traditional ruler, so it's nice to see Jupiter sextile your ascendant, bringing more positivity and optimism in how you communicate and move around. Jupiter sextile Saturn is the more that you're committed to your goals, the more that you're kind of speaking them and seeing them come into your reality. I think this is big announcements, honestly. Big announcements, website launches, positive career feedback. You might have a moment where you're in the spotlight. You might have something trend or something that you say goes viral because Jupiter and the North Node are in your 3rd house. So there is some sense of whatever you put out there it's gonna get some feedback. It's gonna get some recognition. So if you've been focusing on trying to get a website out or launching an online store or having one of your writing pieces picked up, or if you've been hoping for a good launch period for a YouTube channel or a blog or a podcast, this would definitely be something that's coming along the lines of this particular full moon. In the 10th house, though, this can be that you get a raise, you get a new job, you get a call back on a job interview. It means that somebody might, call you and say, hey, can you start tomorrow? And you're like, what? Sure. And just watch, because there is a lot of mutable energy in the skies. So you're seeing this opposition between the sun and the moon, which brings attention to, your work persona versus what you need on the home front. A lot of planets beneath the horizon, so there's a lot going on in the home front. Some of you guys have been moving, or there's been lots changing in how you kind of get around or how you communicate. And we're going to see Saturn in your sign as kind of the focal point of this square during the full moon. So the lesson here is to not say no. it's to not push back, because there can be some recognition, or you're getting some kind of attention. And with Saturn on your ascendant, it's like, oh no, I want to hide. Don't look at me. I don't want to be seen, you know? And you have to really kind of rise to the occasion and be willing to step up to the microphone and say what it is that you have to say and enjoy your moment. Ooh, I love this for you. Ace of Wands. It's going to give you a good push, Pisces. It's going to give you a good push. So new projects, inspiration, ignited passion, opportunity, creative spark, and new initiative. Enthusiasm is a word for the Ace of Wands. Fire element. I love that you got this during a full moon. I feel like this is a big accomplishment or something coming to fruition, but it's also just the beginning of what is going to be more of this. Remember, everybody, that the Jupiter North Node connection will radically multiply and grow something very significant. So even if you're just getting your feet wet, you're just starting something new during this particular transit, it's going to be something that's going to basically manifest and continue to multiply over time. Let me know how this full moon is for you guys over this next week. I'm excited to see how it plays out. Please don't forget to give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment below, like, comment, share, and subscribe. You guys can also support my work by donations, or you can also join my memberships. I have memberships on my channel, and if you join level 3, then that includes not only a shout out for me, but you're also going to get a reading once a month during one of my lives on Fridays. Just as a reminder, guys, also, I will not be doing lives this particular week because, oh, the full moon is in my 3rd house. I'm traveling, so I'm gonna be out for a bit. You guys will still get the content. That content is being pre-recorded, so it'll be still coming out for you on Tuesday and Thursday. But unfortunately, I will not be here on Friday. I will miss all of you guys, and I will be seeing you when I'm back. But we'll be back the following Friday, and we'll be back with live astrology, and I'll post the link in advance so you guys are ready for that. Until later this week, I will see all of you guys very soon. Please enjoy the full moon. Also enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.